Hello everyone, remember how Glitch and Gooseworx promised us at the GlitchX conference that we would see some news about the amazing digital circus in December? Well, that happened, but we will talk about that a little bit later. But for now, I want to say that we will most likely see the second episode of our favorite series in January. And so that you can watch the new episode without missing anything and understand everything that is going on, I decided to make a detailed analysis of the pilot episode for you. The series begins by introducing us to the first character, Kane. He is introduced to us as an entertainer, which is partly true, but he is actually someone else in this circus. But we will talk about that later. After the greeting, we see the other characters, Gangle, Zubul, Kinger, Regatha, Jax, and Kaufmo. But unfortunately, Kaufmo will not be in the series today. After all this, we are shown the main character, but she is not named. Then we see a door. Remember this information because it will be useful in the future. After that, our nameless heroine tries to take off the virtual reality helmet, but we can clearly see that she does not have a helmet. So she came here from another world, and the helmet is the mediator between the worlds. The characters are revealed little by little. The most memorable is Jax. He presents himself as the kind of tough guy that these high school kids are. Regatha is by far the calmest and the only one who really wants to help the main character calm down. And then we're left with a void. Kane immediately made it clear that there was something wrong with the place, since even he never goes there. But what is the nature of this emptiness? That will be hinted at later in the series, and I'll be sure to tell you everything I can find out. Remember, I said Kane wasn't just an entertainer, he was something else. Kane is the manager of this circus. It is easy to understand when he shows his hundreds of eyes, thanks to which, as he hinted, he watches all the characters and everything that happens in this place. Once again, the protagonist notices the same door as at the beginning of the series. After telling the other inhabitants of the circus about the door, she was sure that now she could find out everything and leave quietly. I think you're as tired as I am of calling our clown the protagonist, but she must have a name. But when Kaney decided to ask her, there was no way she could remember her name, which is already weird. Kaney then pulled out a slot machine out of nowhere, which gave the main character a new name, Pomni. Thank God we'll only call her that from now on. Then we are introduced to another character, Zubul. She is a somewhat mean and arrogant woman who is only interested in her own desires. She is also very cold-blooded, which can be seen in her behavior towards Jax. A new word appears on the screen, gloinks. But who or what is it? After a few seconds, we get an explanation about them. Gloinks are little monsters that look a lot like geometric shapes. They really remind me of something. Maybe it's a reference, or maybe it's just a coincidence. I think only a few people noticed that when Kane announced that the adventure was about to begin, Pomni didn't quite understand what it was and why it was necessary. But Regatha explained it to her by saying, to keep from going crazy. I don't think you got that, but it's a very important detail. Remember Kaufmo, the character missing from the show? So the guys decided to go look for him. Kinger clarified that he was probably crazy because a few days before he kept talking about a way out. The same thing happens to Pomni now. After a short conversation, Jax leaves with Ragatha and Pomni in search of Kaufmo. As Ragatha tells Pomni about the rooms they are resting in, you can see that each room has a picture of a character on it. But if we look closely, on one of the rooms we can see that the picture of a pink character unknown to us is crossed out. It's the same with a lot of other characters that we probably won't see in the show. Also, in one of the rooms we see someone who looks a lot like Kinger. As you can easily guess, this character is no longer in the show, and maybe it is his loss that caused all the unhappiness and psychological problems of our Kinger. After telling us that almost everyone who got into the circus tried to find a way out, Regatha starts to get very nervous. This is also worth remembering, as this fact will be one of the main mysteries of the series. When they enter Kaufmo's room, the first thing they see are very strange drawings on the walls, and then an unusual monster appears in front of them. It's important to note that the guys definitely didn't get the room mixed up, as there was a portrait of Kaufmo hanging on the wall. But what's more important is that all the walls are painted with the same inscription, exit. I noticed a drawing of Kaufmo running away from a scary creature. At first I thought it might be a cane, but the shape of the teeth doesn't look like the ones our administrator had. So Kaufmo attacked Regatha, but did not start acting for a long time. Maybe some of the character's soul is still inside these monsters, and that's why they can control themselves for a short time. Ragatha starts to glitch very badly and asks Pomni for help. Pomni couldn't refuse and reached out her hand, but as soon as they touched, there was a burst of energy like a stun gun, and Pomni immediately pulled her hand back, but her hand began to glitch as well. The characters come to Gloink's secret lair, where they meet the main Gloink, who is much bigger than all the other characters put together. I also noticed that this monster has a lot of eyes, the same pattern seen in Kaufmo. After a long conversation, Pomni shows his hand, and Regatha says that they have to find Kane, because only he can fix Regatha and take care of Kaufmo. But the most important detail of this scene is Pomni's hand. Look closely. It has stopped glitching. Pomni, after talking to Regatha, decided to help her and went in search of Kane, but as soon as she started screaming and calling for help, only silence screamed back at her. Remember begins to open one door after another, and in each of them is something incredible, but I was only interested in one door. Remember the corridor where Regatha was talking to Pomni? So I was interested in a picture on the door. It wasn't crossed out to mean that the character is no longer with us, but this, let's call him Faceless, exists. And by opening one of the doors, Pomni made sure of it, though almost at the cost of her own life. After going through all the doors, Pomni was already disappointed, but then she heard a sound. She thought that Kane was there and ran to him, but it was not to be, as she was met by our updated Kaufmo. Remember this trio, after seeing the creature they didn't think of running away, they stayed where they were and learned that this place is the nest of the glowing queen. While they are talking, Kinger notices Zubul being rude to the other characters in her usual manner. This is noticed by Jax, who refuses to save her. Now get ready for the most interesting part of the show. Kinger tries to save Zubul and leaves his hands on her, while the glowing queen almost eats Zubul's head and Kinger's hands. Note that the star-shaped gloink that gave Zubul's head to its queen started glitching after a few seconds, surprising all the other gloinks. It turns out that gloinks are just geometric shapes when they are born, but they can only become monsters when they come in contact with the queen. Take a closer look at the moment with the red toy monkeys that Pomni accidentally released. Kaufmo didn't realize that they were toys until the last second, which means that the intelligence of these monsters is much lower than that of our heroes, and that can't be helped. After some thought, Pomni opens this door and goes into some office, but the scary thing is that as time goes on, Pomni realizes that he is infinite as he opens door after door. While Pomni is trying to figure something out, Kaufmo has chosen his target, a red gloink. Perhaps this is a reference to the Spanish corrida, in which the bull, like Kaufmo, reacts with particular ferocity to the color red. While Kaufmo is beating and destroying the glowing queen, Jax and Gangle are watching, but Kinger is running around like a hysterical little girl, screaming that he's scared and has to get out of this cave. Zubul, having spent some of her time here, points the others to the escalator. And it's near the escalator that we see Jax as the real bully. Only a weak character can do that, which Jax is, he just hides it well. Zubul brings up Pomni, who is still running around the office looking for something that will never end. It's obvious to the naked eye that with every new door opened, with every new room, the condition of our sweet and cheerful Pomni gets worse and worse. Her attention is drawn to a certain desk with a computer and VR glasses. Pomni begins to lose her mind. And as she walks into one of the rooms, she sees the logo of some company that says CNA. She finds a huge corridor in which she runs as if she were not Pomni, and with great effort she opens the last door and finds herself in a place we already know, the Void. Thanks to this, we learned what the Void is. Being in it, the character is frozen for a while and can't even move, simply being carried away in an unknown direction by gravitational forces. While everyone is in a state of complete terror, our circus administrator Kane is sitting in a restaurant with his friend. Kane dropped everything he was doing and went to save our Pomni, who was in a state of anabiosis, and another few minutes or hours and the Void would have consumed him. But Kane made it in time. But note that even after Kane teleported Pomni to the amazing digital circus, she still couldn't regain consciousness for a while. But Kane was more interested in why there was such a mess. Our trio of Zubul-headed wonders approached them and said, Kaufmo abstracted. These words really caused surprise and a little horror in Kane's eyes. We saw the true power of Kane, as he so easily moved Kaufmo around the area and then dropped him into the so-called basement, which is full of monsters just like Kaufmo. After a short speech, Kane announces that everyone has successfully completed the task and will be rewarded with a magical feast. Pomni obviously wants to refuse to participate. After that, the camera slowly starts to move away, and we first see a circus, then a void, and then the void expands more and more until it hits the monitor screen that Pomni has already seen once in the Endless Office. Well, that's it. I wish you good luck and success and say see you soon in the new videos that will appear every 2 days.